The perfect lie. For 25 years, my life was a picture of perfection. I'd met Melissa in our senior year of college. She was a masterpiece, Japanese heritage, with soulful brown eyes and hair as black as a raven's wing. At 5'5", she had more curves than Lombard Street, and for reasons I'll never fully understand, she fell for me, a goofy-looking Midwesterner towering at 6'10". We built a life together. While I pursued my master's in engineering, she became a compliance officer at a hospital on the West Coast. Soon after, I landed a job at an aerospace firm in the same city. 2 years after I got my degree, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. 25 years and 2 wonderful kids later, we were empty nesters with a comfortable fortune and a future that seemed golden. We downsized to a beautiful condo, a place with every amenity imaginable and neighbors who seemed like friends. It was the final chapter of our perfect story. Or so I believed. The unraveling. About a year after we moved in, a subtle chill began to creep into our home. Melissa grew distant. The warmth that had defined our marriage for a quarter of a century began to fade. Our intimacy, once a steady fire, dwindled to a flicker, and then to nothing. I told myself it was just a phase, the natural progression of a long marriage. I was a man of logic, an engineer. I looked for rational explanations. At the same time, a series of break-ins plagued our condo complex. The HOA wouldn't permit cameras on our doors, but inside was my domain. I wired every room with a state-of-the-art security system, a silent guardian for the life I was so proud of. I had no idea it would end up guarding the truth instead. The revelation. The silence between us became deafening. One evening, I decided I couldn't bear it any longer. I approached her, my heart heavy, ready to talk, to fix whatever was broken. "Melissa," I began, "what's going on with us?" And that's when she dropped the bomb. She told me she had strayed. The word hung in the air, a venomous cloud. I was paralyzed, dumbstruck. How many times? I managed to ask, my voice a hollow echo of itself. "Just once," she whispered, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. A cold dread washed over me. It didn't feel like just once. It felt like a long, slow freeze. My mind raced back through the months of cold shoulders and empty nights. Without another word, I pulled out my phone. My finger trembled slightly as I opened the security app. The past few months of our lives, recorded in silent, high-definition clarity. And then I found it. My voice was flat, a monotone she had only heard twice before, both times ending with someone in a hospital. It wasn't just once, was it? She began to tremble, her face draining of all color. I can explain," she stammered. "Go ahead," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Explain." Through sobs, she confessed. It was Brad and Alice, the friendly couple from down the hall. They had an open marriage, she explained, and they were training her to be the woman I deserved. The absurdity of it was almost laughable. "Training you?" I asked, my fingers still scrolling through the footage. "When in all these months did you come to me, your husband, for any of your needs?" I finally found the video. It was Brad, just as I'd suspected. But he wasn't alone. His loving wife, Alice, was there too, directing the show. "I wanted to," Melissa mumbled. "But they said by the time they were done, I could come back to you." A dark, cold chuckle escaped my lips. My mind was already a whirlwind of calculations, designing the perfect, brutal response. Revenge. The game. "All right," I said, my tone shifting to one of decisive command. "Call them. Put it on speaker. Don't let them know I'm here." She nodded, her body shaking with fear. "You're going to tell them that you think I know you're cheating. Ask them to come over at 8 p.m. to figure out how you're all going to blindside me with the news." She did as she was told. "What is it, cunt?" Brad's voice crackled through the speaker. My blood boiled, but I remained still. "Sir," she said meekly. "This cunt is afraid her husband knows." He groaned, annoyed at the complication. "Cunt was thinking," she continued. "Maybe you and Miss could come over at 8. My husband won't be back until 9. We can plan what to say." "Brilliant idea," he said and hung up. I looked down at her, a low growl escaping my throat. "Well, cunt," I spat, "when I get back, I expect you to be dressed exactly as you are when you're servicing Sir and Miss." Her eyes widened in terror as I grabbed a handful of her hair. "You breathe a word of this, and you will never see me or our children again." I slid out of the condo and made a call to an old friend, Steve. He was the real-life equivalent of a fixer, a man from a past life I rarely spoke of. At a bar, I laid out the whole sordid story. "They call your wife that?" he asked, disgusted. "So what's their game?" I explained their plan to turn me into a willing cuckold. "And what's your game?" he asked, a knowing glint in his eye. A dark smile spread across my face. "Steve," I said, "still got that magic elixir for compromising situations?" He grinned. "About time you came back to the dark side." He returned from his car with a small bottle and a handful of heavy-duty zip ties. The game was set. The reckoning. I returned at 9 p.m. The scene that greeted me was more depraved than I could have imagined. Melissa, my wife of 25 years, was on the floor at Brad's feet, clad in a leather harness that left nothing to the imagination. "What in the flying fuck is this?" I bellowed, playing the part of the shocked husband. Brad, arrogant and smug, began his speech about how Melissa just needed a firmer hand. I feigned confusion and went to the kitchen. "Beer?" I asked. "You and Alice want one?" They eagerly accepted. I spiked their bottles, my hands steady, and brought out 3 ice-cold beers, watching as they took long, thirsty swallows. As we talked, their words began to slur. Their confident smiles twisted and drooped. Within minutes, the drug took hold, and they slumped unconscious on the couch. The time for games was over. I dragged Brad's limp body into the bedroom and strapped him to a chair with the zip ties. I stripped Alice and threw her on our bed. Melissa watched, her eyes wide with terror. "What are you going to do?" she blubbered. "They wanted to play stupid games," I said, my voice like ice. "Now they're going to win a stupid prize." Hours later, they began to stir. I slapped Brad awake. "Good morning, Buttercup," I grinned. As they slowly realized their predicament, their faces filled with horror. "We have a conundrum," I began, pacing before them. Option 1. I divorce Melissa, ruin her financially, and release the videos of you two to everyone in this building, your jobs, your families. I will make sure the whole world sees how depraved you are. The blood drained from their faces. Or, I continued, an evil smile spreading across my lips. Option 2. You, Brad, and my loving bride will watch as I take Alice. However I choose. I'll give you 5 minutes to decide. I backhanded Melissa to the floor when she tried to stand. "Crawl," I commanded, and she scrambled behind me as we left the room. When I returned, they were broken. "We've decided," Alice whispered, her voice trembling. "You can have my body." I sneered, ordering Melissa to stand behind Brad and hold his head, forcing him to watch. I looked at Alice. "From now on, your name is Meat." Grabbing her hair, I forced her to apologize to her daddy for what was about to happen. What followed was not an act of passion, but of pure, brutal dominance. It was a demolition of their arrogance, a lesson in power they would never forget. I used her body to break his spirit, forcing them both to confront the pathetic reality of their little game. When it was over, I had her kneel before him and share the taste of his own humiliation. "Now, Meat," I asked her, my voice low and menacing. "Now that you've had a daddy and a god, which one do you crave?" She sobbed, "I'm sorry, Daddy." I slapped her. "Wrong answer." "I'm sorry, Daddy, but he was so much more," she finally whimpered. Shame and sadness washed over their faces. I cut them loose, threw their clothes into the hall, and kicked them out. Melissa was still on her knees, a puddle forming on the floor beneath her. "That turned you on, didn't it?" I asked. She nodded, blushing. "Yes," she stammered. "So you want to be my cunt?" "Please," she begged. "Well," I said, looking down at the woman who was once my queen, "there are going to be changes." I spelled them out. She would sleep at the foot of my bed. She would have no say in our intimacy. I would take other women as I saw fit, and she would watch in silent obedience. Her eyes went wide, but she nodded eagerly. "We're just getting started," I told her. And we were. She has a tattoo now, a permanent mark of ownership. She signed a post-nuptial agreement giving me complete freedom. And she wears a collar that everyone mistakes for a fashion statement. She is happy, in her own broken way. the only member of what I call the Joy Cut Club,